I'll never forget it. I got a phone call. I got asked how long it would take me to get to this hospital. And I said, well, when do you want me to go? And they said, if you get in your car now and drive, how long will it be? So I understood it was urgent. I got there. I got onto the unit. It was a scene from hell. The chief exec, the chief operating officer, chief medical officer, nursing officer, they were all on the shop floor, all trying to do it, but this was a hospital in massive, massive trouble. We went to an intensive care unit first. The intensive care unit was nursing at 1-to-4 ratio, 1 specialist ICU nurse to 4 intubated patients in the open area. In the side rooms, which have limited capacity, at 1-to-2. There were so few staff that some of the nurses had chosen to either use the patient commodes in the side rooms, and some of the nurses had chosen to wear adult diapers because there was literally no one to give them a toilet break and take over their nursing duties. That was the intensive care unit. The intensive care unit was full. Their overflow areas were full. Their non-invasive ventilation unit, their respiratory unit was full. This was a hospital bursting at the seams. I then toured the hospital with the intensive care staff grade, a doctor who then looked after the unit and the rest of the hospital. I'll never forget being in the stairwell with him, and he's out of breath on the stairs because he himself has had COVID in the first wave and now is suffering the consequences of long COVID, but he's still there. The referrals are coming up from the floor. The referrals are the calls.
Is that from emergencies or
from the wards or the emergency department asking for help? That's what happens in routine intensive care. They say, this patient is too sick for us. Can you take them to intensive care? There were 6 of those referrals from the wards. There's no place to put them in the intensive care unit. We went into the emergency department. I looked through the resuscitation bays with this intensive care staff grade. Of the 5 patients there were 3 patients who also need intubating. So you've got 9 more patients who need intensive care urgently. There's no one there to intubate them. There's no one there to look after them. When we got to the emergency department, we were told that a patient had died in an ambulance waiting to get into the hospital the night before. The same thing had happened that morning. The oxygen alarms are going off. The chief operating officer is trying to troubleshoot that with the estates manager. It is genuinely the closest I've ever seen a hospital to a state of collapse in my entire career.
And I think you decided to effect what's called a rapid decompression of that unit, and did that result in 17 critically ill patients being transferred out that night?
That is correct. We called it back to the sector lead. I reported it up to the national EPRR team. That's what we did. We would come up with a plan for immediate support, and the only option here was to effect a rapid decompression. To put it into perspective, in an ordinary winter outside of COVID, throughout the whole of the country, the number of transfers that you might undertake to create capacity through the whole country in 2019 was 68. And that night we sent 17 away from that hospital. And it was all we could do.
How were the staff that you spoke to in that unit?
They were in total bits. I mean, and they'd been doing this throughout the first wave into the seconds for them, which had started in late autumn and was now moving into winter. They knew that worse was to come. They were still turning up. They had had, again, they had their own staff admitted to their own unit. Again, that they had massive staff sickness. So the other insult was that as COVID surged, so did the levels of sickness amongst the staff. So the massive staff sickness. We didn't obviously have time during that visit to talk to them in a reflective way. We went to them later, they told us again about the scale of death. It was there that they told me that it was usual to see 3 deaths a day, more like 5. The intensive care consultant told me going on ward rounds and watching patients die, in front of you, to the left of you, to the right of you, behind you. You know, that was their experience, and they did everything that they could, but everything they could wasn't enough, and that was why it was so hard.